It's a Twitter Tuesday special here on the LockedOn Giants podcast. That's coming up your way next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina, and today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON at sign-up. Again, that's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. And on today's Locked On Giants podcast, which I realize is coming to you a little later than usual, thanks to me losing internet access last night, but we're here. We're going to do a Twitter Tuesday, as I mentioned. Now, I received roughly 24 questions from everybody, probably a little bit more for Twitter Tuesday, which I was absolutely thrilled with because, you know, we've had kind of sparse mailbags of late. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do half of the questions in this mailbag. And then I'm going to do a bonus episode, which I'm going to run on Wednesday with the other half of the questions. So if you don't see your questions or don't hear your questions in today's episode, don't panic. I've got you covered. Now, some of you did ask the same questions. I know a lot of people wanted to know about Kadarius Toney and why he didn't play. So wherever we had duplicates of questions, I kind of rolled them up into one. But again, you will get your question answered. If you send something in, it should be covered. If not in today's show, it'll be covered in the next show. So let's get right into everything. All right. We're going to kick it off with a question from Eric Campan, who wants to know, does this opening change the expectations for the season now that we have a very favorable schedule the next few games? Eric, I'm going to say no. Still got to go out there and you still got to play every week. You know the old saying, any given Sunday, any team can win over the other. The Giants, according to many of the quote-unquote experts, had no business beating the Tennessee Titans, but they did. So who's to say down the line that one of these easier opponents that everybody thinks the Giants should beat doesn't come back and do the same thing that the Giants did to the Titans? So what I'm getting at is you can't make any assumptions. You got to line up, you got to play the game, you've got a game plan, you got to do everything that you need to do. If there's an injury somewhere along the line, that can affect things. So no, it should not change any expectations. All the win has done from Sunday is it's just rejuvenated the fan base a little bit more and validated the fact that this team is on the right track. But while it is on the right track, there's still a long way to go. There's still some holes that need to be filled that may not be filled until next offseason. But this team and the arrow is pointed in the right direction. And that alone should give everybody or put a smile on a lot of people's faces after nearly a decade of a miserable football from this franchise. So thank you for your question, Eric. Adam Garrison's up next. Why do you think Toney wasn't a bigger part of the game plan? All right. I got a lot of questions about Kadarius Toney, so I'm going to roll them all up into this one particular one that comes from Adam. Adam, Brian Dable spoke to the media on Monday, and the topic of Toney snaps did come up. Bottom line, Adam, is that Toney missed a lot of practice time in the spring. He wasn't able to practice at all because of the knee procedure he had, and he missed a lot of practice time in the summer. So while Toney knows the playbook, which the coaches have said time and again, he knows the playbook, knowing it and being able to execute it at the level that they need him to, two very different things. It's like, I know how to build a rocket. I have the instructions on how to build a rocket, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to build a perfect rocket. you know? So knowing and doing, two very different things. Now, some of you might be saying, well, gee, Pat, Sterling Shepard missed all of the spring and he also missed most of the summer. So how come he got so many snaps and Toney didn't? Well, it boils down to practice and what they show in practice. And in the case of Kadarius Toney, probably didn't show enough for the coaching staff to say, you know what, we can trust him out there. And I think it was very telling that after Wan'Dale Robinson had to leave early with a knee injury, that they didn't really go to Kadarius Toney to step in, as the next man up. So I thought that was pretty telling. All right. So thank you for your question, Adam. All right. Next question comes from William Edward. And I apologize, William, because when I clipped the tweet, it got cut off. So I don't know the last name. It looks like at dark the something. So, but anyway, William, first off, love the show. It's my first listen every day. Thank you for that, William. Second, in your opinion, should they move Tomon Fox to inside linebacker once Tibbs, Smith, and Ojulari return? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. At this juncture, to try and move Tomon Fox to a new position, I don't think this is the time to do it. I think if they were going to do it, they should have started prepping him maybe during, the spring and the summer. They didn't really do that. So I don't see that happening now. Now, could they cut him and move him back to the practice squad and do that? Certainly. But I don't think it's going to be, that they're going to throw him out there and have him learn on the job, so to speak. So for that reason, I don't see it happening. But there could be a possibility, like I said, where they say, okay, you know what? We've got all these edge rushers back. We need the roster spot for Ellerson Smith. So let's go ahead and send Tomon Fox down to the practice squad where maybe we consider a position switch. So that's the only scenario I could see that happening, but certainly not on the job, William. Thank you for your question. Ruben Martinez, Empire PR man. What are your thoughts about Izudu's performance? To me, a rough start, but I thought he had a really solid second half. Ruben, I thought Izudu as a run blocker was really good. I liked what I saw. I liked, the mobility, his ability to get to the second level, to blast open holes. I thought he was really solid in that respect. The pass blocking, and this holds true, by the way, for the entire offensive line, the pass blocking left something to be desired. And you know what? That's going to be natural at this stage of the game. The kid's a rookie. It's easier to run forward to run block than it is to retreat, to pass block. He also missed time in training camp because of an undisclosed injury. I do think Izudu, with additional reps, is going to be fine as a pass blocker. But based on Sunday, I would say his run blocking was miles ahead of his pass blocking. So thank you for the question. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Twitter Tuesday. It is part one of a big mailbag. More coming up after this. Hey, Giant fans, planning your fantasy sports or betting action for 2022 has never been easier when you use Prize Picks. You can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available for any of the major sporting leagues. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states and Canada and offers safe and easy withdrawals. Download the Prize Pick apps or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. Don't forget to enter that promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. Hey, Giant fans, if you're taking countless vitamins and supplements as part of your daily diet, now there is a single product that delivers 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. All it takes is one delicious scoop of AG1 by Athletic Greens to get the key elements necessary to support your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and slow down aging. AG1 is a lifestyle-friendly supplement, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and it tastes great. And it costs less than $3 per day, far less than purchasing and storing multiple bottles of vitamins and supplements. It's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NFL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NFL network to take ownership over your health and to pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the LockedOn Giants podcast. I'm Patricia Traina, and you've got a Twitter Tuesday. And this is actually part 1 of a Twitter Tuesday. We've got a big mailbag that came in. So I'm doing about 11 questions on this mailbag. And then I'm going to do the balance in another show. I'm going to do a bonus show for you. And speaking of the shows here on the LockedOn Giants podcast, on Wednesday, I'm scheduled to be joined by Brandon Olson, who many of you might know as the host of the LockedOn Gators podcast. But Brandon's also a big Giants fan, Giants follower. And he's really good at what he does. And it's so good, in fact, that I have him writing for me over at Giants Country, where he just put up a really good article breaking down Daniel Jones's performance in week 1. So Brandon's the special guest planned for Wednesday. Then on Thursday, Julian Council, host of the Locked On Panthers podcast, joins me. We're going to do our crossover show, our weekly crossover show presented by Prize Picks. And we're going to get you ready for the regular season home opener. All the key matchups, personnel, everything you need to know for that game, including our predictions as to what's going to happen. And then on Friday, fingers crossed, I'm hoping to be able to schedule a live show, another live edition of Traina and Taina, the entertainer. Hopefully will be able to join me. Now, he said last week he was starting a new job this week, but he definitely expressed an interest to continue doing live shows with me on Friday. We're going to see if we can make it happen. I know a lot of you enjoy the live shows. So as soon as I can get with Taina and figure out scheduling, I will let y'all know. And for those of you who watch on YouTube, I'll post something in the community section. So keep an eye out for that once I get that all squared away. So that's what's coming up here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And of course, don't forget the bonus Twitter Tuesday show. That'll be coming probably on Wednesday. We'll have that for you. So you'll have 2 shows really that you can choose from, or if you like them both, enjoy both of them. Hopefully you'll like them both to want to tune in to the Brandon Olson show as well as to the second part of Twitter Tuesday. So anyway, let's get back to your questions. Fantastic questions this week, and I do appreciate them. We have 2 from James A., who writes, how do you think the cornerbacks looked? And assuming they keep Daniel Jones as cornerback, a position they target high in the draft next year. And then question number 2, how do you think they did containing King Henry? That would, of course, be Titans running back Derrick Henry. All right, let me answer question number 2. And thank you for the questions, James. Question number 2, I think the fact that Derrick Henry had 82 rushing yards on 21 carries kind of speaks for itself. I mean, this is a guy who regularly can get 100 yards rushing with ease. Didn't do it against the Giants. And in fact, the entire Tennessee rushing game mustered only 93 yards on 26 carries. That's a 3.6 yards per carry average, which is about 0.3 less than what Henry averaged. So the numbers speak for themselves, my friend. They did a good job at containing Henry. All right. Now, as for your first question and the cornerbacks, I think regardless of what happens with Daniel Jones or anybody, cornerback is going to be a priority next year. Now, is it going to be a high priority in the draft? I don't know. It might be something they address in free agency. It's too soon to really talk about the draft because so much can happen between now and then. And we don't even know where the Giants are going to pick or if they're going to need a quarterback or, what they're going to want to do. But that being said, I think it's fair to say that the Giants are going to probably want to and look to add to that cornerback group next year because the depth right now is still a little iffy. Now it could get better and maybe answer some of the questions, but I think it's still a little iffy to where maybe they're going to want to supplement that group next year. So thanks for the questions. All right, up next we have another James who checks in, James Davies, who writes, say Barkley has a healthy year. What do you expect the Giants to do with the contract scenario at the end of the season, assuming he plays like he did the other night, of course? All right, James, this is interesting. The last several weeks, I began to get the impression that if it comes down to Barkley or Jones, I think Barkley stays. The offense, to me, looks like it's being built around Barkley, getting him out into space, utilizing his talents. A lot of people say, well, Brian Dable, when he was with Buffalo, didn't really have a use for the running game. It was kind of an afterthought. Yeah, but he didn't have a running back of Saquon Barkley's talents. And if Barkley stays healthy and continues to play like he played on Sunday against the Titans, I definitely see him coming back. Now, would I make him the highest paid running back? Probably not. All right. I'm still a little queasy about his injury history. And also, I would need to, for the same reason why I wouldn't give Daniel Jones a huge contract if he balls out, I'd want to see Barkley do it consistently. I don't want a one-hit wonder on my hands. And now all of a sudden I'm stuck with a bad contract if I'm the Giants. Would I give Barkley a modest, maybe like a 3-year deal, for example, with about 10 million or so per year? Yeah, I think I could go for that. You look at what it's going to cost to franchise a running back. I think it's going to cost somewhere about 10. I want to say between 10 and 13. I don't remember the exact number, but it's not a lot of money. But whatever that franchise total is for next year, that's about what I would consider for Barkley if he were to be signed to a new contract. And again, I would not give him a long contract. I would give him probably like a 3-year deal at most, because now, between the injuries, between the mileage that is expected to go on his legs, you can't dump a whole lot of money into him. You got to be smart with how that contract is structured. But I could see him back. And, I don't want to overreact one way or another based on one game, but I've long felt that Barkley has a better chance of coming back than Jones if everything kind of falls into place. But we'll see. That's why they line up and play the game. So, all right, up next, we have a question from Damon Mule, who writes, is Kenny ever going to score? You know what, Damon? I think he is. I think he will score. I just cannot fathom the idea of Kenny Golladay going a second season without a touchdown, unless, God forbid, he gets injured or something. When he's going to score, under what circumstances, that I can't tell you. But I do think that they'll find a way to get him the ball. Now, here's the thing with Golladay. I'm not so sure he's the best fit for this offense. Golladay is he's a 50-50 guy, a jump ball guy, whereas this offense seems to rely a little bit more heavily on players to get the ball in their hands on the short and intermediate routes and then pick up the yards after the catch. That's really not Galladay's game. Golladay is at his best on the deep ball and on jump balls. And you're not going to throw a whole lot of deep balls during the course of the game. I think one year I saw a stat where Tom Brady, and I believe it was the Bucks, averaged about 5 deep balls a game. I don't think you're going to see Daniel Jones average 5 deep balls a game. They're going to pick and choose their spots, but most of the passing game, I think, is going to be based on getting the ball out of their hand quickly and getting it to the playmakers. So that being said, unless the coaching staff says, figures out a way to get Kenny Golladay involved in that aspect of the passing game, I don't know that he's going to have a lot of targets this year. Now, I could be wrong, but that's how I kind of see it trending as of right now. And I also think it's very telling that General Manager Joe Shane, needing salary cap space, has avoided touching Galladay's contract, because to me, that says they want to get out of that contract in the worst way. And it's going to happen. If I had to take a guess, I think it's going to happen after this year. So that's kind of where we're at with Galladay. I think I don't think he's an ideal fit for what the Giants want to do. Certainly not at the money that he is getting. That was just a bad, bad contract. All right, Beardless Coach checks in, wants to know, explain the confusing wide receiver situation. All right, Coach wrote an article about that on Giants Country, but for those who haven't seen it, let me explain it real quick. It boils down to what you show on the field. All right, so Kadarius Toney, as I mentioned, missed all of the spring and missed chunks of the summer. Now, the kid, from what Brian Dable has said, knows the playbook. But knowing the playbook and being able to go out there and execute at the level that they need him to, two very different things. So while Kadarius Toney was sidelined in the spring, Richie James, David Sills, these are all guys who got reps, who took advantage of the reps when, Toney and Galladay and Shepard were all sidelined during the spring and into the summer. So those guys kind of got a jump start on not only learning the playbook, but showing the coaches that they can execute what needs to be executed at a high enough level. That's what it really boils down to. Not enough practice time for Kadarius Toney to convince the coaches that, yes, I can do what you need me to do. It's that simple. Now, some of you are going to say, well, what about Shep? Shep missed all the spring. He missed most of the summer, but yet he got a lot of reps out there. Yes, but Shep is number one. Shep's a seasoned veteran. Number two, Shep showed them something in practice. He showed them enough to say, yes, I can be a part of this. So it's a big difference. And I think that's why the receiver rotation is what it was on Sunday. We'll see what it is next weekend, but I think that's the answer to that question. All right. We have a couple more coming up on today's first part of Twitter Tuesday. Stick around. We'll get to those last couple right after this. Hey, Giant fans, BetOnline is the only place that offers the best information on the latest odds, contests, and player props for all your sports betting needs. No matter what sport you're into, BetOnline has you covered. Plus, they offer everything you need to know for live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head on over to BetOnline today to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the games start. Welcome back, Giant fans, to the LockedOn Giants podcast. Patricia Traina, and I appreciate you making us your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. And we've got a couple more questions on part one of our Giants mailbag, our Twitter Tuesday mailbag, and still to come. And this will be tomorrow. We will actually have two shows. Brandon Olson is scheduled to be with me to talk Giants, and then we'll do part two of the mailbag. So again, if you haven't heard your question yet, just be patient. It's probably coming up in the next batch. All right, getting back to these last few questions of part one. Director Zay asked, do you see the Giants having a winning schedule in the first 10 games? You know what, Zay? Before the season started, I think I had the Giants going 4-4 to start the season in the first 8 games. And then I had them going in the 2 games after the bye. I think I had them winning those 2 games. I think it's against, I think Houston's one of the teams, and I forget who the other team is, but I think I had them going 6-4 to start the first 10 games. So by virtue of that, yeah, I always felt that way, that could be a possibility. The Titans win was unexpected. I think we can all agree that. But as I said before, the Giants, as they do every year, they end up winning a game that they have no business winning, and they end up losing a game that they should have won. So that's the only thing that I would caution you on, before getting too excited. I know it's easy to get excited, and I don't want to be a buzzkill and kill that off because it's been a long time since we've as a Giants community have felt this way about this football team. But I think we've got to be cautious. Carolina coming up, a lot of people think that the Giants can take them. They probably can, but there are matchups that I'm concerned about, namely Christian McCaffrey against the Giants' inside linebackers. So it's a matter of, game planning and execution. I'm not telling you anything different, but look, I'm optimistic. All right. I would love for the Giants to have a winning record this year, but I'm sticking with 8-9 until further notice. All right. That to me is just, I'd be happy with 8-9. And I know I'm settling for less, but it's a rebuild process. And I think regardless of what happens this year, Dable and Shane are going to get a pass because they're basically cleaning up the mess that they inherited. So thank you for the question. All right. The last question of this part of the mailbag, part one of the mailbag, comes from Matt Cherney. Should run the football and stop the run be this team's identity, or will we have to play a few more games to ID the strengths, weaknesses? Matt, thank you for the question. I think if you ask any NFL coach, he'll tell you that he wants the identity of the team to be run the football and stop the run and rush the passer. I think that's like an age-old cliche. That being said, I think every football team is different, and the identity develops organically. So in other words, you can't go into the season and say, our identity is going to be X, Y, and Z. You got to let it develop organically. Sometimes guys step up that you didn't even see coming. Guys have disappointing seasons that you didn't see coming. So I think, the mantra that Brian Dable and the players and coaches have been saying all along is tough, smart, fundamentally sound, the stuff that you can kind of control, with effort. But the identity of this team, I think it's going to take a few more weeks before we really know what the identity is. Now, we saw some hints of what the offensive identity is going to be. But again, I think it's going to develop over time. In time, I think the Giants would like to be known as a juggernaut, not just relying on Saquon Barkley's legs, but also on the passing game as well. Defensively, I don't know that we saw a whole lot with the pass rush and the aggressiveness, but in time that will come. 1 week is just way too soon to say what the identity of a football team is going to be. But thanks for the question. That was a good one. So, all right, Giant fans, that's going to do it for this first part of the Twitter Tuesday mailbag. Again, 2 episodes tomorrow. Brandon Olson scheduled to be with me, and we'll do part 2 of the mailbag. So make sure you check it out. And thank you, as always, for listening to the LockedOn Giants podcast. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a great one.